Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today. Here it is. Before the reading begins, if it resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. Link for that is down in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Alternatively, you could come over and join us on Circle. There you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee, which includes, all the extendeds for all of the signs, plus weekly energy readings and other videos that I've put up periodically as well. And hang out with a really extraordinary group of people. Oh, we run the live classes over there as well. So if that's something that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Let's flip the camera around here and get straight on with it. Actually, we're using the triple goddess to clarify. So let me give this one more shuffle and then we'll get straight into it. So, I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please. Ooh, I've got the 9 of Pentacles on its side for your recent past. What about current energy, please, for Sag? Ooh. The Fool. That's very nice. I like that, Sagittarius. What's coming towards Sag for August, please? 3 of Wands, and I am going to take that way up because of the presence of the Fool. It seems like it's your energy's taken a little while to align itself, but now it's here. I think there's something. I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this, because the first thing that comes to mind is that there's a permission that's been granted here. But that makes it sound like you're at the whims and mercies of other people, and that's not what it is. I think it's about you giving yourself permission on this one, Sag. So let me just... But where there's been stagnancy, certainly there is movement up ahead. So tell me about this 9 of Pentacles, please. Thank you. Wow. Okay, 4 of Wands. Lovely. There's a lot of cards there. I would take them all, but there's a lot of them. We've got the Moon, we've got the 8 of Cups and the Magician, and we're very much talking about an internal journey to find one's power, right? But let's just get the one card. I knew there was going to be 2. What the fuck? Right. It always happens. If I ask for 1 card, it's almost like the card's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to give you exactly double what you asked for. We have the 4 of Swords and we have the Tower. I like that. I'll get into that in a minute. Tell me about the Fool. Why is this here for Sag, please? 10 of Wands, 3 of Swords. What a thing to leave behind, right? Tell me about the 3 of Wands. We have the King of Swords. I like that. One more, please. And we have the 7 of Pentacles. We've got the 2 of Cups at the bottom of the deck. And excuse me while I lean back in my chair here. But it's getting a bit warm now, so I need to air my neck. Anywho, what an interesting set of cards. And there's no way of looking at these cards, at least for me, without seeing this being directly related to this. Now, whether or not you're in a relationship doesn't actually really... I don't think it's the important thing at the moment. And what I'm not saying is, all you single Sagittarius out there, you're about to find the one or anything like that. Because if you've watched me for a while, you'll know I have thoughts and feelings about that, right? But what we can say is, if you are in a relationship, there's a lot of stuff that's been very slowly unpacking over a period of time for you, which feels like it is resolving right now. And there's something about that is incredibly liberating for you. If you are not, then it's the work that has needed to be done to make you emotionally available. Because the Two of Cups for me is about emotional intimacy, right? It's about coming together with somebody else and not being afraid to hide any part of who you are. And also being, really quite interested in who the other person is, right? It's this reciprocity that we get in this card here. When you compare that, when you combine that with the Queen of Pentacles, here is someone who understands the value of something, and quite often in the way that I read the cards, we're talking about the value of self. What do we have that is valuable? And have we been hiding it for the longest time? Are there bits of us that are, I wouldn't necessarily say unorthodox, because I think to be sad is to just kind of go your own way anyway. But there's this little nugget of something inside that's had a great deal of pain, sorrow, anxiety wrapped around it, that seemingly here is being resolved, and it's being resolved by you. It has been resolved by you, and therefore it's creating the perfect environment for, should you wish to, should you choose to, you to be able to go and look for someone with whom you can share some value, right? Knowing your own value, knowing somebody else's value, coming together to be more than the sum of your parts. That's what I'm seeing here. Which is not to say that this entire reading is about relationships, because it's really not. But relationships are an interesting barometer for changes that are going inside of us, right? Going on inside of us. Either we start to attract a different kind of person, and I'm not just talking about, in terms of romantic partners or sexual partners or anything like that. I mean, just quite literally the kind of people that we meet in random places, the kind of conversations that we have, they change and they adjust as we ourselves have changed and adjusted. So let's start over here, because the Nine of Pentacles, like all of the nines for me, talk about how we manage whatever suit they represent, right? And by manage, I mean how we utilize them for our own highest good, right? In the case of the Nine of Pentacles, we definitely have the idea of self-worth baked in, but we have independence as well. We have a sense of, let's just have a look and see. No. There's a tiny, tiny little detail on the Nine of Pentacles, which is my favourite thing that most people don't notice. Because it's so small, it might escape your eye if you didn't know it was there. And it's not actually on this card, which is a little bit wounding. Nevertheless, we're talking about the resources that you have at your disposal, right? And by resources, I mean the things that are valuable. So your attention, your care, your time, all that sort of stuff. When the Nine of Pentacles is up in the upright, all of this stuff is flowing very well, right? It's not a need for those things. It's like, no, we have these things. We recognise what we have and we use them in a way that is spot on. But there's something here that's felt akin to kind of doubt. And I don't think it's the doubt of a doubt in your own personal resources or resourcefulness or even your independence or whatever. But there seems to have been this curious conversation that's going on that I'm kind of feeling my way around the edges of, that involves intimacy somewhere. And maybe the sacrifice of your independence for greater intimacy, right? And fears and anxieties that you have that have been almost baked into the cake of what is Sagittarius, right? Now, we're not talking about mismanagement of resources. We're not talking about you valuing things that weren't valuable, or putting your attention or energy in things that didn't really deserve it. We've got more of this kind of neutral position where it's like, I am questioning this. Maybe you might be questioning what you bring to the table. Maybe you question what you value. Maybe you question whether you are valuable to somebody that you care about. It's like a little confidence knock thing going on here, right? But was it I feel like it was last month we were talking about, I'm sure it was you I was talking to, about how doubt is a really essential part of having faith. Because if you don't have doubt, then it's not really faith, right? If doubts do not emerge, then it's not really faith. I can't keep saying this over and over again and expect you to understand it differently. Without the presence of doubt as a polarizing influence, shall we say, or an unbalancing influence, then what we're doing is blind trust and naivete. And faith is something a little different to that. Faith in yourself, faith in the universe, faith in God, faith in the creator, faith in source, whatever it is for you, you know? And the reason that I say that is because what we've got going on down here is there has been a fundamental restructuring of your foundation. We have the Four of Wands and we have the Four of Swords. And I feel like this is really important for you because the Four of Swords for me is a kind of mental peace. It's making mental peace. On a fundamental level, because it's numbered 4, right? It's my meditation card. If you don't meditate, you absolutely should, Sagittarius. It's a movement on from what we see here in the Three of Swords, where there is a fundamental disconnect between what our emotions think is the state of the world and the state of our relationships and how things should work. And then the cold, hard steel of reality coming through to burst that, right? The heart almost looks like a balloon in this card here, right? So the Four of Swords then becomes like a step back while we process, we assimilate all of these things, and we allow for reality to be reconstructed around us, or our perception of reality to be reconstructed on the basis of what we now know that we didn't. Now, you've been putting a lot of work into who you are on a fundamental level for a long time, Sagittarius. I think the era of chop wood, carry water will probably stay with you for a very long time because it was hard. And more than that, we had a period of time where it was necessary for you to dig in and hold strong, right? Act much more like a fixed sign than a mutable one. And that was really, really uncomfortable, just as the kind of flexibility that comes natively to you and is something that the fixed signs have been needed to adopt has been, thoroughly fucking excoriating for them. Nevertheless, what it's given you is like all sides of the equation. And what it's allowed you to do is occupy this space in the centre, which is perhaps a little wiser, a little older, a little bit more experienced than where you were before, where you recognise that in the moment, it is not always the ability to pivot that is going to be the thing that is needed in any given situation. Sometimes it's digging in. Sometimes it's getting your hooves down like you were a Taurus and being like, I'm not fucking moving. I'm going to do this. And endure something, right? So now this discernment that you have is like, well, sometimes I can pivot and sometimes I'm going to dig in, but I know that I can do both, so that's absolutely fine. Right, this Tower card here is a change of direction. That's the way that I always see the Tower card. Just in case you haven't seen this before and you're wondering how the fuck I got the fact that it was the Tower. Well, obviously, it's numbered 16, so, I mean, that's a good clue. But that's actually the orientation of this card, or the scene on this card. Because I looked at it blankly for about 10 seconds before I realised that the cat held the secret to all of it, right? When the Tower hits, it does feel like the floor is just shifted 45 degrees underneath you and you're trying desperately to hold on, I think it's a genius interpretation of this card. I fucking love it. There's always an instability when the Tower comes along, and it's going to knock down anything that is not strong. Now, your foundation has had a comprehensive overhaul. It may be that you're not entirely sure to what, the extent to which you have a particular kind of resource or not. And I think it's probably because it hasn't really been tested yet, because all of your energy has gone into the foundational level stuff. I mean, for some of you, you might have moved home. For some of you, you might have made bigger changes than that. The Four of Wands is the card of home. It's a card of marriage. It's a card of togetherness. It's a card sometimes of support, when we turn out for a wedding or we turn out for a funeral, these things we turn out for because we care about the person who's experiencing some sort of life shift, even if that life shift is into being not alive anymore, right? A lot of what it was to be Sagittarius in the past was to be a creature of high reactivity. You know, a little bit like a cat. It's just, you know, we're busy munching along on its munching on its breakfast, only to turn around and see a cucumber there. We've all seen the videos that have been going around for years, right? The cat's like literally going up vertical. I always think if that was a person, that would be a Sagittarius, you know, maybe an Aries, but you know, definitely a Sagittarian, right? That immediate instinctive reaction that already sees you half a mile down the road before you've even really processed what it was that you just saw. And over time, and over a lot of very, very hard work, what has changed is your ability to bring a little bit of peace to that overactive nervous system of yours. I don't see people talking too much about Sagittarius and their anxiety. There have been times in the past where that has been very, very high, and you're not that kind of person anymore. Oh my. So we'll look at that. That's lovely. I'm going to edit that out. I think. So we're going to... Oh, we've lost all cameras. Okay. Well, you're going to have to put up with this little black screen here because it's just black altogether if I try and flip to just the overhead camera. Oh, shits and giggles. This is wonderful, right? So it's fine. You just don't get to see my shiny rubbery face anymore, but I'm still here, right? So what was, you know, capable of tipping your world upside down to some extent was the experiences that you had, but to a greater extent it was your interpretation of the experiences that you have. And as you've wizened and as you've become more wise and as you've matured, there's something much more stoic, not just about you, but about your nervous system, full stop. And that makes you much more efficient in terms of where you expend your energy, right? So that's what's been going on. But where you are right now is the Fool. We've got the Ten of Wands at the bottom of the deck here, and we've got the Three of Swords. And there's something, this isn't just a statement of what's been going on with you for the last, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. This feels like it's something that's happened, or you've perceived, you've finally begun to perceive where this is happening, because of events that have happened recently. Now maybe it is something's gone on, right? Maybe something's nibbled on your resources a little bit in some way or another. A previous version of you might have been like the cat with the cucumber and gone, you know, absolutely fucking vertical about it. And it hasn't happened. Instead, you chose the way of faith. You chose the way of trust. And what we're seeing down here is a completion to the kind of burden that you've been putting your nervous system under for the longest time. You know, this Ten of Wands is relatively unique amongst all of the tarot cards that I own, because it's the only one, it's the only one where someone's actually depicted as putting the burden down. I think that's very, very interesting, particularly since one of the questions that I ask with the Ten of Wands is, why the fuck are you carrying so many wands? Why are you carrying them like that? Why did you have to carry them all in one go, right? How did the decisions that you made in the past lead to this point where you are so very fucking burdened right now? And we can track it back. There's usually ways that we can track it back, and we can see where it started to go wrong, and we started to pick up more and more wands and do more and more things and become more and more burdened. And yet here, there's a recognition. It's a Sagittarius card as well. It's like, do you know what? I'm allowed to rest. My nervous system is allowed to rest. So then what's happened? Bearing in mind that we have these two cards over here, we have a restructuring of the foundation over here. And I have talked in the past about how Sagittarius never really felt like they had a home, right? There was something itinerant about Sagittarius, particularly when it came to, like, you know, family and stuff. You had to get very good at making your home wherever you were. But your home could be packed up in an instant, right? Thrown into a rucksack, and then there we go, Sagittarius is off on their way without a look back. There was something very protective and defensive about that ability that you developed over a long time. Now I'm looking at these cards here, and particularly one that is talking about home, right? And frazzled nervous systems and all that sort of thing, expecting everything to go wrong. And then I'm looking at this over here, and I'm looking at this down here, and I'm saying, Sagittarius, have you finally found a way to settle yourself? Now that sounds like it would be a very minor thing, a very small thing indeed, but I think whatever's changed in your recent past, and it does feel to me like, I don't think that you've had the tower come down, but I think that there's been something that's kind of rattled you a little bit. Maybe even something that you didn't really feel like you were able to kind of resource your way out of, almost. Like maybe you watch somebody else go through something. I don't know. Like, you've got to take it as it resonates to you. But this doubt here, in the moment, you've practiced a Jesus hands off the wheel, and I trust that whatever's happened is okay. It's going to be okay. And you've come to the end of a cycle of burden that was forged by pain. It's like, you know, I was talking about your emotional bubble with this. I think maybe for years, there's just been a little part of you that's been expecting that emotional bubble to pop for one reason or another, right? Maybe it's a deep insecurity of self. Maybe it's could be any one of a number of things, right? But it feels like something's happened recently where there was an opportunity for things to go the way that ordinarily you would be afraid of them going. And you consciously chose faith, you consciously chose trust, and you've broken the cycle of something that has been like a chain around your ankles for the longest time. All understood by you in the costume of freedom and liberation. It's like, oh, it's okay, it was all right that I didn't commit myself fully exactly as I was, because it was always going to go wrong at some point. Like, I knew it was going to go wrong and I was prepared, so it was fine, and I put my entire life into a backpack and I fucked off and it was great. Nah. Something rattled here. It didn't come down, but it definitely rattled hard. And rather than resorting to anxiety or defensive actions, defensive words, any of these kind of things, like, you fooled it. I'll use it as in acted like a fool in the best possible way. And you trusted. You felt doubt and you chose trust. You felt doubt and you chose faith. And it's like I can almost hear the shackles like exploding, the metallic clink of them just fucking blum, 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 away. And they're gone. There's something very rooted about you here, Sagittarius, and it's rooted in a way that is not, it's not restricting your movement. It's giving you more. There's something very purposeful. And certainly when we get over here, there's something that's feeling very purposeful about this. There's something that feels very purposeful about that over there. But it feels like there's been a huge broom taken to your subconscious, and it's like, whatever it is that is not of the order of faith, not of the order of trust, it's going. And it's not to say that you are behaving in a foolish way or you're being naive or any of those things, right? Because you're coming from a place of real wisdom. You're coming from a place of real trust. And I don't think that this is off the back of the way that somebody else is behaving. I think they had the key potentially to it all going wrong, but it didn't. But it didn't matter that it didn't, because you chose to be a fool first. Now, there's something redirecting here. There's no doubt about that, right? We cannot see the tower and say everything's just going on one path. So there's some sort of movement in some sort of direction. But it's not a downward spiral. It feels, in fact, like it's an upward spiral. It's very, very strong, because you seem to be very, very secure now. A little wobble, but you're very, very secure in what you believe, in what you love, in what you know, in where you are and what you're rooted to. So when we get into August, we have the Three of Wands. We have movement. We have some sort of looking at the horizon. We've got contemplation of the future, and it's contemplation of the future that's coming from a very, very rooted place. Now, to be clear, we're not necessarily talking about a spouse here, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We could be talking about a business partner. We could be talking about a close friendship. I feel like there's some sort of move here, and it doesn't have to be a house move. I feel like some of you already did that, right? But there's some sort of journey, there's some sort of process. There's certainly a look into the future, and it's like, what are we going to do? This dude here is looking at the horizon. And the emphasis is on, what are we going to do? What do we choose to do? You know, a lot is made of Sagittarius's natural kind of optimism, right? And whenever I look at this particular Seven of Pentacles, what I see is life's given us lemons, let's make lemonade. There's nothing about this card at all that screams, God, I'm so frustrated, everything's awful. We just have the presence of pentacles, you know, presented like lemons. And we've got this woman in white, which is indicative of faith and trust and innocence and all those kind of things, right? And she's just like, all right, well, I'll just pick these. I'll just do something with these. The rattling is strong that I feel over here. The breaking free from the internal rattling is even stronger over here. And when it comes to August, it's like, okay, well, it's not that we've hit a fork in the road and now we need to make a decision about what we're going to do. Like, we know exactly what's going on and we know exactly what we need to do, and we're going to choose to do that. The King of Swords is always about the decision-making process. Let's pull up another deck here. Sorry if you can hear my shrieky offspring in the background. Hopefully the microphone isn't picking them up too much. Tell me about the King of Swords. Yeah. Oh, Lord. So the King of Swords is at the bottom of that deck. And we have effectively a decision between two things. Are we going to descend into anxiety, or is your Sag optimism going to be the fuel that drives you forwards in this path that wasn't actually the way that you wanted to go? That's what I'm starting to feel off all of this. I maintain that you are not being hit, you have not been hit by a massive tower that is awful. Not at all. But there's a shift here. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? It feels like a very clear either this or this. And I feel you choosing the Ten of Cups. Because what is the point of this, right? That's the downward spiral that I was talking about. And that's very much, you know, very much of the energy of the Three of Swords and that Ten of Wands, if it was a normal Ten of Wands, but it's not. I'm going to have a quick little look here at this Seven of Pentacles. Why is the Seven of Pentacles here, please? For Sag. Nine of Wands, which is a Sagittarius card. Judgment, which you better believe is about, making some sort of big life-changing decision. And the Chariot at the bottom of the deck. There are two things moving simultaneously here. And this is actually kind of perfect when you align it up against what we were talking about before, right? When I was talking about the chop wood, carry water, how Sagittarius can sometimes pivot like a superhero, right? Spin on a sixpence, like Superman, you've gone off in the next, in a totally different direction of warp speed. Or you can choose to dig in and make yourself so fucking heavy and strong and endure that's becoming like a superpower too. You have both, they're in balance, and you've got the discernment to decide what thing is needed when. The Chariot is about an alignment of polarities, right? And you span the breadth of polarities now, you know what is required when. But this is about movement forwards. This is about success and determination, even when things don't look like they're quite working out the way that you would like them to do, which is, it seems, what August is about here. Now, I'm mindful of the fact that Neptune is very active at the moment. It's currently retrograde, I think, and I can't remember off the top of my head whether it's made it into Pisces yet or not, but it will be retrograding into Pisces. And I think that we have to accept when Neptune is dancing around and being very busy, particularly when dancing between the very last sign of the zodiac and the very first sign of the zodiac, that things may not be as they seem. So what in the first instance feels like lemons being given to you might actually be somewhat of dodging a bullet. But it's going to take time for that to show. And, instead what you're doing is going, okay, right, well, I'm going to be fixed and strong in the way that I, together with somebody else, move in a different direction away from where I thought I was going. And yes, it could feel like shit, and we could totally spiral if we thought about it too much. But if we have trust and we have faith and go, okay, well, that path was clearly not for us. We're going to go in a different direction. Now we're going to make decisions that change the course of where we're going. There's a distinct possibility that this is turning out not only better than you anticipated, but also shielding you from something considerably worse, which is very interesting indeed. Now I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to go over to the extended because I want to dig into all of this, because I can see the building blocks of all sorts of things that are coming together and coalescing here. And the consciousness shift from you, where you choose to let go of everything that you used as a protective mechanism before, which was the running away, and instead, running away, that's not fair, pivoting away from what was difficult and emotionally troubling, right? So you never really, you try and avoid having too much contact with it. Choosing instead to focus on faith and trust. It's leading you somewhere, it's guiding you somewhere, Sagittarius. And I think this is a very, very good month for leaning into, I don't have all of the answers, but I know that I am protected. And my intuition and my optimism and my faith are the key to communicate with something that has more of an idea than I do about what is coming, what's on its way down the pike, whatever that might be. And in the first instance, that which felt like it was a commiseration prize or settling or we'll make the best of a bad job or something like that, is actually going to turn out to be considerably more beneficial for you later down the line. But this degree of faith and optimism alongside somebody else I don't think would have been possible without this fundamental restructuring of your foundation that's gone on. And I'm finding this absolutely fascinating. So if you would like to join me over in the extended, I'll get my camera cooled down a little bit so we can bring it back up again and you don't have to look at that fucking W there. If you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If this is where we part ways, that's absolutely fine. I'm not sure I've ever had a stronger message for you, Sagittarius, of leaning into your faith. No, don't necessarily believe exactly what you... Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you know what is happening when you don't, right? And spiralling as a result of that. You just move forward with faith and trust and optimism and your posse, whatever your posse is. And your posse might just be you and your cat, right? But it's still your posse. And put everything that you've got into the lemonade direction, if I can put it like that. Right, this needs further investigation. So know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.